But Michael Garcia was awesome all season long. Slash 286, 351, 449, career highs across the board. Major career high in slug, obviously. A 121 weighted runs created plus. Highest by a significant margin in his career. And he came into the season with I think, a 3.6 career WAR, and he ended with, or 3.5, and he ended with, he was a 5.5 win player this year. One of the best third basemen in all of baseball. One Royal Way back at it here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms. Hit those notification bells so you know when these episodes go up. Only a few more for the 2025 season, but thank you for rocking with me all year, specifically on YouTube. If you are able to hit that subscribe button, I would really appreciate it. I want to get to 900 before we go dark for most of the off season. I don't want to be staring at 895 or 896 for a couple of months. I would appreciate that. This show, as always, brought to you by Emprise Bank. Member FDIC, our partners in Possible here at Kansas City Sports Network. And on this show, we can't thank them enough for their support over the last couple of seasons. And be sure to check out Kansas City Strength and Conditioning if you have a baseball or softball player in the area looking for a place to train during the fall, winter, off-season time. That is one of the best places in the area to do, and they were the original sponsor of the show. So we've kept a good relationship with them, so I want to give them a shout-out and support what they are doing for the Kansas City area. So this episode is going to look a little different tonight. It's going to be longer than normal because this is the only episode going up this week. I wanted to kind of take a look back at the season that was, what went right, what went wrong, things that we want to see improve in 2026, and just some of those kind of early storyline things to look out for. JJ and Matt Cotrero did a press conference yesterday at Kauffman Stadium. I pulled a few thoughts from that, some of the things that they talked about, and I'll spend the majority of the beginning of the episode doing that, and then we'll talk about the season that was, as I'll stick with the most recent thing that was available. So I'm going to go with the heavy hitter point right off the top here. JJ talked about, they asked about, coaching changes, anything of that nature, and he very quickly said, we will look to make some tweaks to the coaching staff, but Alex Zumwalt will be back as the hitting coach. And that was one thing that caught the ire of a lot of fans and people that, are around, not around the team, but I think you guys know what I mean. Like people that love this team, that pay attention to it. It caught the ire of a lot of people because Alex Zumwalt was the punching bag for pretty much the entire 2025 season from fans on social media. And I've talked about a couple of different times that, without trying to directly say they got to fire the guy, because I don't think that I'm in a position to be able to say things like that. But I did say, and some of what they talked about kind of proves the point that I was getting to, is that they need new voices in that room. Because it's not just Alex Zumwalt as the hitting coach. It's Keone Dureni and Joe Tillen. There are three hitting coaches. There are a lot of teams nowadays that have one hitting coach and then a couple assistants, or the Mariners tried like an offensive coordinator thing for a little while, and that blew up spectacularly, and they got rid of that and moved on. So it's something that teams have. They have multiple different voices in the room and try and go from there. And clearly there are things that this organization and the players on this team like that Alex Zumwalt brings, right? They've talked about the relationship that he's built with guys like Bobby and Vinny and Michael when he was in the minor leagues working. Like he came up with those guys and he helped make them big leaguers and helped them improve at the big league level. So there's qualities there that are, that they like. I think he does some good things as a hitting coach. I think he does a really good job of maximizing a player's swing to hit the ball hard and put the ball in play and make a ton of contact. That is something that is in the modern game. He's not doing like some crazy like swing changes to guys and trying everything's got to be pull side fly balls. Like it's not that. There's no reason for everybody to do that because there's no like one size fits all thing to hitting. Everyone's a little bit different. Body type, swings, swing speed, swing type, all those things. But maximizing a guy's ability to hit the ball hard and hit the ball on a line is something that they take a lot of pride in. That's something that the organization wants him to do. And I think he does a good job of that. But Durrani and Dillon have been around the organization for a long time as well, just as Zumwalt has. So this might be where we see some of those tweaks of maybe bringing in someone from outside the organization, a guy or two, to bring in and add to what Zumwalt brings in the relationships that he has with this roster already. And if that's the changes that they make, then I think that's a fine move. And I don't think it's a unserious or terrible thing to keep him around. The offense did step up a little bit in the second half. I know it wasn't quite enough for them to get to the playoffs and things like that, but we saw steps forward from the offense. And it's directly correlated first half, second half. Annie Rogers in her article talking about this exact thing. And a lot of this was, there was a lot of talk about runners in scoring position. That was one of the big problems this season. We saw that swing back in the other direction in the second half of the season. At the beginning of the year, they slashed 229, 287, 340 up from the beginning of the year to the All-Star break. After the All-Star break, 293, 364, 500 slug with an 860. That's an 864 OPS, and that's third in all of baseball. So we saw that pendulum swing back, and the offense was better because of it. Was it perfect? No. But it was much better than the disaster that the offense was for the first few months of the season. And some of that is also directly correlated to they had better players on the roster in the second half of the year. Like, you got real big league hitters, like legitimate big league hitters in the lineup most days, with the addition of Yastrzemski and the addition of Adam Frazier. Before that, beginning of the season, they run out Hunter Renfroe, they run out MJ Melendez, Michael Massey was playing almost every day. They had a lot of at-bats for John Rave and Drew Waters, and it was just not a tenable lineup. Especially with some other guys kind of struggling out the gate. Bobby was fine out the gate. Vinny really struggled out the gate, and Jonathan India really struggled out the gate. So you had an offense that was all struggling together with maybe 4 or 5 legitimate big league hitters in it. But when you add 6 to possibly 7 legitimate big league hitters in the lineup every day, the offense immediately got better. Like that is more of a front office issue than a Alex Zumwalt issue. And they're going to have to wear the brunt of that and find ways to make this offense better out the gate in 2026. And we'll see what happens there. I'm also curious if they make a move on the first base coach front. JJ specifically mentioned that, yes, the offense was not as good, but the base running was not as good as well. And they took themselves out of some innings and did not give themselves as many opportunities. Premium opportunities with runners in scoring position. That may be a move that they make. Outfield coaches / first base coach Damon Hollins might be a name that gets moved around as well. One thing that was also mentioned is they are not renewing the contract of Drew Saylor, director of hitting performance, who's been in the minor leagues, I believe, since 2019, 2020. But no, that would be 2021 is when he came in because he helped revitalize MJ Melendez and Nick Prado that season. So we're going to see some changes over there, and I assume that they're going to make outside changes and see if they're able to catch the hitting up to the pitching that has drastically jumped where the hitting from where it was when Brian Sweeney, Zach Bove, Mitch Stetter came in a couple of seasons ago. A couple other points from that press conference. Salvador Perez is going to be back in 2026. We all knew that was coming, but they confirmed that. They're picking up the club option. I don't think that maybe they try and tack on another year to Salvi, so he's not just playing on another 1-year deal. But that has not been confirmed, but it sounds like that's what they're going to do. There was a really interesting specific quote about Jonathan India Contreras said Indy is a quality major league hitter who can hit anywhere in this lineup. They like his on base ability. Say he's best suited for second base. I mean, yeah. If Picola said something really interesting, he said he thought the trade worked out well for both sides. On base numbers went down, but close to career numbers. So again, social media is what it is, the hellscape that it is. But like JJ and Q in this situation are not going to come on there and shit on the guy. They're not going to say some terrible things about him. Like, there are conversations I'm sure that have been had behind closed doors that it was well below expectation for what he's supposed to do. They're not going to do that outwardly. Who does that? Like, calm down, people. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to kind of prop him up, try and make him feel better. You know, there's a little bit of, got to help the ego of the player, right? And I think he's going to be on the team in 2026. This also may be maybe trying to butter him up to, move somewhere else. I don't know. But I just think people blow these quotes out of proportion when there's no reason for them to just, now the time here, JJ throws the alley-oop to Q to dunk on Jonathan India. Like, there's no point in that. There was a question about interest in extensions for players. There was no one specifically brought up. I think we know the names that are going to be thrown around for that. Said, yes, there's interest, but, quote, there has to be willingness on both sides. He said that in the past, with Bobby, and others, and Cole and others, that there has to be a willingness of the player to want to be here. So we'll see who's going to be available. Michael, Vinny are two names that come to mind. Maybe a Chris Bubich with him being in a contract year. Maybe they try and keep him around on maybe a cheaper deal coming off the injury. That, that's going to be a name to watch as well. But we'll talk about that and talk about some more true like GM free agent stuff here in an episode or two. There was a question about Mike Yastrzemski. JJ said Yaz is a player of interest as a free agent and a guy that they like. They like the professionalism that he brought. He hit really well in Kansas City. I liked what I saw from him. I talked about I would not mind a 1-year deal bringing him back. Now the trick with that is you have to bring in the right side platoon because the OPS drop off from righty to lefty is very, very stark. So that's a secondary free agent move that you have to make to try and improve the outfield in that spot. So that's just something to consider there. No firm number on payroll. It said we'll stay in the 140-ish range is what he said, but ownership is willing to spend when if needed. Right now, they only have a handful of guys under contract, and that's without ARB numbers and things like that, and that'll change some things. Once we get a better idea of some of the arbitration numbers and pre-ARB numbers, once all those come in, then we'll have a better idea what they're actually going to be able to spend. It's not going to be a ton, but they're going to be able to go out and get a couple of guys, and I don't think that is a firm they have to stay in that number. I think John Sherman has shown a willingness to shell out some money, and we'll see if they're going to be more aggressive in that this offseason. They're going to look at internal and external options to improve the outfield. Caglione was brought up in that, but they're going to bring in competition. They're going to try and do what they can to improve the outfield, but they desperately needed to. Last year, not for lack of trying, it didn't work out. They weren't able to get the big free agent that they wanted. I imagine they're going to attack that, either free agency or trade this offseason and see what they're going to be able to do to improve this roster. We're going to take our first break, come back and talk about what went right in the 2026 season, the things that I liked that I saw, and we'll be right back.
Chiefs Kingdom, I have got a question for you. What is your favorite touchdown? Well, for me, I can confidently say that my favorite touchdown, it's the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From the first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. From spreads to money lines, same-game parlays, regular parlays, you want it, DraftKings has got it. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. I use DraftKings Sportsbook, and you should too. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
Calling all Chiefs fans, you can be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is a proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. I understand that the Royals took a bit of a step back this year, and they didn't make the playoffs, and that's obviously a disappointment, as we talked about on the live show on Sunday. Like, the expectation was the playoffs, they didn't get there, and that is disappointing. But I still thought there were some things that were good that make me believe that this team is still in a sustainable window to compete, despite taking a step back this season. One of those big things is we have more proof of concept that the pitching development in this organization is really, really good, and a reason why they're going to be able to build a sustainable model of winning. Because if you can pitch, you're going to keep yourself in a lot of ball games as your offense gets figured out. And if the offense takes a step forward, then this is going to be one of the better teams in the AL Central. Because they have 8 or 9 guys that can start games for them in 2026. Legitimate starters and not just pipe dream, right? Big, some of those proof of concept players that we saw. Chris Bubich, first full season back. Tommy John, he was in this kind of that Cy Young discussion fringe until he got hurt. It's unfortunate that he got hurt, but he was really good and made an all-star team because of it. Steven Cruz, who they got 3 years ago from Michael A. Taylor, took some time, but again, that development process was there, and he popped in a big way this year. And proved he's a legitimate big league reliever and a guy that is going to be, I have in Sharpie for this bullpen, assuming health in 2026. Big time fastball, big time stuff. Seems like he was able to really put it all together in spots this year, and with a little more consistency, a little more time, I think he's shown to be a serious high leverage back end relief type with Lucas Ursig and Carlos Estevez. Ryan Berger, and Stephen Kolek you bring over in the trade, they're immediately really good. Berger, you hope is going to be fine. That doesn't seem like they're as concerned about it. He wasn't brought up among like any sort of surgery, major injury concern, ready for spring training. And as long as he's healthy, Berger's going to be in the rotation conversation. So Stephen Kolek, and Noah Cameron is one of the best rookie starters in all of baseball this year. And went from a really cool story and a guy that, starting for the hometown team to a big reason why this team was able to stay competitive, because every 5th day he went out there and gave you a quality starter pretty close to it. despite all of these injuries, with Cole Reagan's going down, Seth Lugo going down to being ineffective down the stretch, Michael Lorenzen missing time, Michael Walker missed the start, Chris Bubich misses most of the season, Ryan Berger goes down. You have all these injuries in the bullpen that you have to deal with throughout the year. Hunter Harvey, Lucas Ursig, all these guys, right, are out for periods of time. They have to kind of patchwork this and get it figured out. And they still have the sixth best ERA in all of baseball, 12th and 5th, 9th in walk rate. They didn't strike a ton of guys out. Now, a lot of that is due to Reagans and Bubich missing a lot of time. Funny enough, the guy that led the Royals in strikeouts this season was Michael Lorenzen. If you had told me before the year that was going to happen, I would have asked, how much money do I need? To bet on that. Like, you've got to be kidding. But ultimately, and this was the other thing I thought that was interesting. They had 8th most quality starts. They had a bunch of those last year. And again, a lot of that was due to the fact Reagans and Bubich missed time. They had the highest soft contact rate in the league. So that means you're pitching pretty damn well. If you're not giving up a ton of hard contact and you have that, a lot of soft ground balls, pop-ups, weak contact, you're able to induce that. That's the way that you mitigate not having a ton of strikeouts, is you're not getting hit hard. And that's what we saw a lot from this roster this year. And that's despite all of the injuries. It's unfortunate that, I would have loved to have seen a full season of Cole Reagan's, and what he could have meant. Chris Bubich, same thing. What could that have meant for the 2025 season? Could that have gotten them, the 5 or 6 wins that they needed to get into the playoffs? I don't know. I'm not going to, I thought about doing if these results flipped, the Royals would have been in the, been a contender, but that just felt like cope, and I wasn't going to do that. So I decided against that. Another great thing that we saw, and pretty unexpected for me. If you listen to the shows in the offseason, I was pretty skeptical of this player based on what I had seen in 24. I didn't know what they were going to get from him. I didn't know if he was going to be an everyday player. But Michael Garcia was awesome all season long. /286, 351, 449, career highs across the board. Major career high in slug, obviously. A 121 weighted runs created plus. Highest by a significant margin in his career. And he came into the season with, I think, a 3.6 career WAR, and he ended with, or 3.5, and he ended with he was a 5.5 win player this year. One of the best third basemen in all of baseball, next to Jose Ramirez. He was that good all season and elite defensively. He's going to win a Gold Glove at third. Went from a guy that, if he hits 10 home runs, will be thrilled, and he hit 16 this year. And he did, the steals were down a little bit, but he drove in 74 runs. And cleanup for this team a lot of the year, near 40 doubles. Didn't strike out a lot. He cut his strikeout rate by 4% from last year, and his walk rate went up 2.5%. He really rounded into form as an all-around high-level player, and went from not even starting on opening day and to we can't not have him in the lineup and end up playing 160 games at third base. And he's put himself from, again, what is he, to he's a part of the core of this team for 2026 and beyond. And a big reason why he's going to be an extension candidate. Now, I don't know if he gets that extension this year, because you're buying high off of a terrible year to a good year. What's he going to be in 2060? You wait on that. But if you wait and he replicates it, then the price goes up. So I don't know what they're going to do. I know that, our JJ McCullough spoke so highly of Michael 2 or 3 years ago that they might get it done now. And maybe Vinny gets done as well. I don't know. Speaking of Vinny, he goes 30 and 100 this year. I never thought Vinny was going to be a 30-plus homer guy. I thought, he's going to be 20 to 25, but he really found the power and leaned into being that type of hitter. Being if I have the chance to elevate a ball pole side, I'm going to do it. Sure, he may not be the true complete hitter that he was when he came up to the big leagues in that small sample, in 2022, but I think he's more valuable to the team right now than he was then as a contact first, sprayed around the yard type of guy. Having a legitimate power threat from the left side for this team is huge. Slash 264, 323, 475, a major jump and slug this year. 116 weighted runs created plus. He's been above average hitter every year. He ended up getting to 1.5 WAR, which is what he was in 131 games last year. He played 160 this year. And that's with a horrific month of April when he had the hamstring that he came into opening day with, and it was really rough. But from the beginning of May on, he was one of the better hitters in the league and one of the better run producers in the league, finished with 32 homers and 113 RBIs. He's a really good player, and I think he's better than a lot of people give him credit for. Yeah, he may not. He took a step back in a couple areas, like with runners in scoring position. He was so good with runners in scoring position last year. It was just at an unsustainable level. Like as a team, that happened, and Vinny specifically, yeah, because he hit like 360 with runners in scoring position. That's just not going to happen year over year. Like I remember one year, I'm going to look this guy up because I remember that it was a big reason why this guy got a contract extension. Like Alan Craig in 2013 was unbelievable with runners in scoring position to almost just, again, it was like an unsustainable level. Yeah. Okay. So here is with runners in scoring position in 2013, Alan Craig hit 454, 500, 638. And that's in 152 plate appearances. It was absurd. I remember that specifically because he got a deal. He ends up going to Boston, and he's out of the league 2 years later because the pendulum just swung so far back in the other direction with runners in scoring position. He was ineffective. So that's kind of the give and take of baseball sometimes. But Vinny found a way to still be effective. And Vinny last year, it was sack flies, moving runners, and you're just putting the ball in play. This year, it was being more of a power threat. And that drove in runners, and that made him an effective player. And if he doesn't have a bum hamstring for the first month playing through it, to his credit, maybe he's 40 and 125, right? Or, flirting with 40. Like, I think he might have that type of pull side power now. I don't know, but in 32 might be his ceiling. But I think at a minimum, he's going to be 25 and 100. Like, there's a pretty good baseline of what he is now. And I think that's why and maybe an opportunity to extend him as well. He struck out more this year, but he struck out 15%. Like, when you think about the power hitters in the league that go and hit 30 homers, 100 some RBIs, there aren't a lot that are out there swinging and missing and striking out less than 16%. I'd like to see him walk more, but I also think sometimes he's better off swinging and putting the ball in play than taking a whole bunch of walks. So there's some give and take there. But I liked what I saw from him for the majority of this season, and I'm glad that he was able to play 160 games, prove a lot of people wrong, because there was so much of the conversation about him being injury prone, not reliable enough because he's not going to play 160 games. He posted every day except 2 this year. And I think both of the games that he missed were facing lefties. So I think he did his job really darn well. Carter Jensen, and I've talked about this before, so I don't want to belabor the point because we talk about him a lot in recent weeks. But cup of coffee in the big leagues aside, he's going to be on the opening day roster in 2026. Well, I didn't think that was going to be possible. Even if they did call him up, I thought, okay, he'll compete, but I don't know. I don't know if he'll necessarily be on the open day roster, but I bet by May with a little more time in AAA, he probably comes up. And instead, he proved the guy's ready for big league baseball and to be in the big leagues at 22 years old next year, because he doesn't even turn 20. He hasn't even turned 22 yet. He turns 22 or he is 22 now, but it was his age 21 season. So he'll spend pretty much all of next year, most of next year, 22 years old. He'll be 23 in mid-season. And he's a big part of the future now. And He hit the longest home run in Statcast era in franchise history. And I have pretty high expectations for him now. And we'll see if he's going to be able to meet them. But I wouldn't be shocked if he did. That's the type of player that I think he's shown that he could be. It's less than 70 plate appearances in the big leagues, but there's a pretty impressive sample at the end of the season. As this team was continuing to fight till the very end. I was really impressed. And again, I don't want to talk about this for too long because I talked about it the other day. But the Carlos Estevez signing went about as planned. Like at what you could have expected for a closer that you signed for $11 million. And he has a 2.45 ERA, which is exactly what he did last year. The FIP is up a little bit with some walks at the beginning of the year, but he closed out 42 games for you. Blew a couple, but most of the ones that he did blow were extra inning runner on second already. I don't look at those the same way that I do a true blown save, which I think he only had 2 all year. In the truest sense, 9th inning lead. He's able to come into spring training fully healthy next year and not have to ramp up in season. I think the strikeouts can come back a little bit. And if that's the case, then you're getting, again, an incredible steal and a guy that you feel comfortable giving the ball to in the 9th inning. And you have a bridge to him with Ursig, Cruz, Serpa. Maybe Luinder Avila is in that conversation. And it's not necessarily set it and forget it 8th, 9th, but it's pretty darn close. And as I talk more about this, I'm like, there's a lot more guys in Sharpie that are going to be on this roster in 2026 than there aren't. I don't think there are many holes to fill, but the holes that they need to fill are going to be the reason why the Royals make the playoffs or why they don't. And we'll talk a little bit more about that over the next couple of weeks. We're going to take our second break here, and we will be right back after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button as I talked about at the beginning of this episode. I would appreciate it. Want to get to 900 subscribers for the end of the, as we lead into the off season, so I don't have to stare at waiting on 6 subscribers the next time the Royals make some news. So here's the big, the stuff that went wrong, right? Here's the part of the episode that no one wants to talk about, right? But this is where we got to go. And this is a little bit of kind of taking a macro point and then trying to get to the micro. But the offense was just too inconsistent all year. I mean, it's as simple as that. And some of that is they lack that same level of runners in scoring position hitting that they had in 24. It's interesting. We actually look at some of the raw numbers and like the OPS, slug, all that stuff. It was almost the same as last year in 24, but they just were so good with runners in scoring position that it leveled things out and it kind of inflated offense as a whole and made it better than it probably was. This was just a truer sense of what the offense was. Without that, the variance of hitting with runners in scoring position swinging in the other direction, and it swung hard in the other direction. And the Royals knew that was coming. It was just a matter of, can we stave it off and can we still be good enough that it doesn't kill us? Unfortunately, it did. And it's not the only reason that this team wasn't enough. Because there were a lot of days where they showed up and you could just tell early, man, they don't have it today. This offense is not enough. And some of that is hitting off fastball. Some of it's trying too hard in some certain areas because certain guys pressing, some of your star players pressing in some big spots. Maybe only getting one or two in an inning where you load the bases on multiple on and you could have gotten more and you just didn't. Or you start off hot and then the next 7 innings there's nothing. And then you got to scratch and claw to stay in and you lose a 1-run game. We saw a lot of that this year too. There was a whole bunch of areas that they were just inconsistent and just it's not enough. And it was pretty clear early on in the year, like this is going to be what kills them because the pitching is going to keep them in this thing. The offense just has to pull their weight, and they didn't a lot of times. And they wasted a lot of good outings, and they wasted opportunities when they had chances to cash in and get the pitchers off the hook. And it just didn't happen for them this year. And you hope that some of that runners in scoring position variance swings back. Generally it does. And they're able to make enough improvements to the roster that you don't have to rely on Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez and Kevin Biggio and Mark Canha getting big league at-bats, and Michael Massey potentially getting big league at-bats at the beginning of the season and dragging the offense down a few notches. And this is where I think we can get to the Jonathan India discussion. I talked about it a little bit the other day. Try and expand on it a little bit. The season stats for him, he had 233, 323, 346. It was the second lowest walk rate of his career, lowest strikeout rate of his career, interestingly enough, lowest ISO by a significant margin, lowest batting average, lowest OPS, lowest slug by a lot, 89 weighted runs created plus, lowest of his career. First time he was a negative WAR player. A lot of that is due to defense because he was abysmal in multiple spots. Third base, left field, second base, didn't matter. He was not very good at any of them. It was a worthy swing on a guy, right? When they made the trade, I thought this was going to be the thing that could maybe put the Royals over the top because just having a consistent leadoff hitter in front of Bobby Witt Jr. help just change things. Because Michael Garcia was not that guy in 24. He was one of the worst qualified hitters in baseball, and they really didn't have many other options to be a leadoff hitter. So he had to keep running him out there. And a lot of times Bobby Witt Jr. came up with, in the bottom of the first inning, you maybe get to the ballpark late a little bit, and you sit down with your beer and your hot dog, and there's bases empty, 1 out, Bobby's up. Like that was a lot of it. But we saw a lot of that this year too, because Jonathan India was not good in the first inning, and he took walks relative to some other guys on this team, but not enough. Like he just didn't do enough, and they moved him down. They tried moving him down in the order when Shremsky got signed, and yes, it helped for a little bit, but he also was playing and like banged up and hurt for a lot of the season. Like it's just tricky. And they said good things about him. By all accounts, he was a good clubhouse guy. I never heard a negative thing about him. He was a pretty quiet dude, but I wonder if they run it back with him because he is under contract for another season. That ARB number may be lower than they thought. So maybe, you save a little bit of money there. You're able to put it elsewhere. And maybe it's a strict platoon with a left-handed hitting second baseman that you bring in. Maybe it's Michael Massey if they decide to go that route. But I do have questions if he is an everyday player. And for those that want to know how Brady Singer did this year, just as a matter of perspective, he threw 169 and 2/3 innings with a 4.03 ERA. The FIP was a little lower, actually. He did a pretty good job not giving up home runs, 19 homers, and playing in a ballpark where there's a lot of home runs hit. He actually walked 60, struck out 163. He ditched his changeup entirely and started throwing a cutter. 14 hit by pitches from him this year. That's kind of crazy. But he made every start, which is what he's done pretty much his entire career. That is the one thing to his credit that he was able to, that he's very durable. And there is a lot for that, for a guy to be able to man the post every fifth day And I think we would look at this differently. I think I would look at this trade differently if the I just lost it. If the starting rotation took like a nosedive, right, and they just couldn't handle the innings. And they had all the injuries, and they were still really good. So I think that's a testament to the organization recognizing, okay, we like this guy a lot, but we have all these pitchers behind us that we know can go and can handle these innings and eat up those innings that Brady had. And we believe in the talent identification to make trades, free agent moves, non-roster invite guys in the minor leagues that can cover these innings. And they managed to do that. So, yes, trading for Jonathan India may have been the right guy, but I think the process of making a trade for that type of player and trading theoretically expendable starting pitching is the right process. The process just did not work. And so I wonder if they go back to that well again this offseason and they trade from the bounty of pitchers that they have that are at the big league level or nearing the big league level to go and try and make that swing and try and get that big time outfielder that they need to try and be, to help get over the hump and help fix this offense a little bit. If you want to try and drill down on some like the games or the areas of the schedule that were really tough, April and June are the 2 months you look at. And they were fine I think they were around 500 after the first month. It was not spectacular, but that was when the offense had a ton. I mean, that was kind of the beginning of the offense is really struggling. And that's where, they saw they were sending Hunter Renfroe out there most days. They were sending Kevin Biggio out there most days, MJ Melendez, and so it was a lineup of not a lot of functional players, and that it did them in. I'm just looking at these runs scored. I mean, there's a lot here that are pretty poor and pretty unfortunate in games that they had really good pitching performances and just couldn't quite get it done. But we saw a lot of this year, so I don't need to belabor that point. June is what killed them, in my opinion. They go 8-18 that month. They had multiple losing streaks of 6+ games. They had that horrendous homestand where you get shellacked by the Yankees and then you get swept by Oakland or Sacramento. And that triggered a players only meeting. Then you go on that great road trip, right after the players only, you go to Texas, you sweep them, and then you lose 7 straight with losing to San Diego, to Tampa, and the Dodgers. You end up losing 2 or 3 of the Dodgers. And then you lose the Mariners to end the month. I think they won 1 home game in all of June alone. It was rough. And that's a huge reason why you didn't make playoffs, why they had to scramble so badly in June and July. And now they made up ground there and played good baseball at that point. But by then, you're playing catch up. You're not. It completely changes the dynamic of how you're going to be able to try and get these games, and that's where they just felt perpetually stuck. 1 game, 2 back, 1 game back, 2 game back, 2 games back, 1 game back. It was a whole thing, and June was a big reason why that didn't happen. Now, I don't want to kill the player, right? Because he was a rookie, didn't spend a lot of time in the minors because he was just too good for the minor leagues in certain spots. But I mean, you can't go. It would be naive to say that Jack Caglione was not disappointing, because he was. /157, 237, 295, a 49 OPS plus, 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, in 232 plate appearances, 62 games. IL stint in there with the hamstring. I think we're already looking to try and get a reason to get him out of the lineup for a little bit, because it was so poor. one of those games in June that I specifically remember. He comes up with the bases loaded down one of the Dodgers, and he swings at the first pitch and grounds into a double play and ends the game. There were things that I liked that I saw from him when he's able to elevate the ball and not hit. And one thing JJ specifically talked about was his ground ball rate, that he hits way too many balls on the ground. And that is, I mean, if you watch, you don't have to look for the number, and you know that he did that. Like he had a 50% ground ball rate in the majors this year. That is obscene. No player can survive that, especially like unless you're like just a speed demon Chandler Simpson type. You can't. That's not survivable at the big league level. And he's always had a really high ground ball rate. That's something they're going to need to fix this offseason. Like one of the biggest hinge points for 2026 as I look ahead is, can Jack take a step forward? And if he does, your offense changes a ton. And you have a legitimate 40 homer guy, 30, 40 homer guy hitting sixth in your lineup. You know, it could change the complexion of where this team is heading offensively. But if he doesn't, there's serious conversations that are going to be had quickly because he's too good for AAA. He destroyed that level so quickly that the only way for him to learn was at the big league level. And there's a steep learning curve that I don't think any of us, like, we knew that he was going to have his moments, right? I thought the talent was just going to overcome it and he would be able to get out of it quickly, and he wasn't. I think he just got in such a hole and dug. Probably the most failure he's experienced at any point in his life. I can't imagine what that does to a guy mentally. But he's going to have to get it figured out. And an off season of knowing, okay, I'm going to be in the big leagues. You know, I got, really, this is a super, super important off season for me. Coming to spring training, ready to go, and then it's time to roll in 2026. That I don't think there's any point, unless he has a absolute disaster of spring training, which I don't foresee. Jack's going to be in the opening day lineup 2026, and they're going to have to figure out very quickly, is he going to be a guy? Is he going to be a true part of this? And it's crazy to say that, 62 games into a guy's big league career, but he came up so fast that his development time, like the clock ticks a lot faster when you're having to do a lot of your development at the big league level. So we'll see. I mean, the injury logs, a big part of it. They were relatively healthy in 24, not so in 25, but that's not much of an excuse. Every team gets hurt. Every team has issues. And we'll see if that's able to change in 26. You have you're a little healthier and like you were in 24, you get 32 Cole Reagan starts or, 30 Cole Reagan starts. You get 28 to 30 Chris Bubich starts. You get 28 to 30 Seth Lugo starts. You're probably in a much better place. So that's going to be part of it. And then what needs to change in 2026, I've talked about some of them, throughout that conversation. Seeing the runners in scoring position pendulum swing back the other way, put together, better at bats and allow that to happen. It changes that'll help your offense as you kind of try and tweak and get it figured out. Just talked about it, but Cags needs to take a big step forward and Jensen to maintain what he did, or at least not regress to the mean super hard to where he becomes what Cags was. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the ability to walk and work plate appearances, it makes Jensen's floor a lot higher. But if he's able to maintain what he did, it helps. It's going to help this offense quite a bit. And he's going to make sure he's in the lineup every day. I understand it's a tall task, but I do think he's up to it. This is just something that's kind of out of your control, but just can the starting pitching stay healthy for most of the season? Now you have a lot of depth, which helps. You're going to have Stephen Kolek, you're going to have Lowinder Avila, you're going to potentially have Ben Kudrna if he takes a step forward at the beginning of 2026. I'm curious what they end up doing with Michael Lorenzen. I don't think they end up picking his mutual option up. Maybe they still bring him back as just a depth piece. There are going to be a lot of other names to look into, but that would be part of it. And then out of batter too. Trade free agent, I don't really care. But they need more offense to begin the season. They need 6-7 guys that are legitimate difference makers in the lineup every day from jump. And I understand there's a little bit of sunk cost fallacy with Hunter Renfroe, but they remedied that very quickly. MJ Melendez is not a big leaguer. I don't know if Michael Massey is. I hope he is, but I'm not going to hold out hope for that. I'm curious what they do with Jonathan India. But there are going to be names that they're going to have to out and get. If it is Yaz, then they're going to need that right-handed platoon. And we'll talk a little more about that over the next couple of weeks. Probably like 2 more episodes here is more than likely what we're going to end up doing. And then we'll go dark and we'll see what the team does. And I appreciate those that have hung out and listened to this whole thing, listened to me ramble for 45 minutes straight with no YouTube chat to help drive any conversation. So I do appreciate that. Like, rate, subscribe, review on all platforms. Hit those notification bells. And we will talk soon. A couple more episodes. I'm going to try and get some people, different people on, do a little more of a roundtable discussion next week. Got that in the works. And hopefully I'll have some more stuff confirmed for you guys sometime mid next week. Talk soon. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one.